Let me take you back to a day that's seared into my memory. A day when the air crackled with tension and the weight of choices hung heavy over a small county courthouse. It was a Thursday morning in late spring. The kind of day where the sky is a restless gray, heavy with the promise of rain, mirroring the storm brewing inside those four walls. I was there, perched on a creaky wooden bench among the spectators, my notepad clutched tightly, my pen ready to capture every word of what I knew would be a case to remember. The case was Carter versus Marshall, and let me tell you, it was more than just a legal proceeding. It was a raw, unfiltered collision of human flaws, fierce emotions, and the kind of drama that leaves you questioning where the line is between right and wrong. The courtroom was alive with a restless energy, like a kettle on the verge of boiling over. The benches groaned under the weight of onlookers, neighbors, curious locals, and a few reporters like me, all drawn by the whispers of a case that promised to be explosive. Their murmurs wove a low hum that filled the room, a backdrop to the tension that pulsed through the space. At the front, behind an imposing oak desk, sat Judge Vanessa Brooks, her presence a steady anchor in the chaos. She adjusted her glasses, her eyes sharp and unyielding, and tapped her gavel lightly, cutting through the noise like a blade. "All rise," the bailiff's voice boomed, and we stood, a collective breath held as Judge Brooks took her place. Support Court, Judge Vanessa Brooks presiding, is now in session. Case number JVB 1084. Carter versus Marshall. As we settled back into our seats, my gaze locked onto the two figures at the heart of this drama. On one side stood Marcus Carter, the petitioner, his face etched with a mix of exhaustion and resolve. His shoulders were squared, but there was a weariness in his eyes, the kind that comes from carrying a burden too heavy for too long. He was a man who'd been through the ringer, working 2 jobs, raising 5 kids alone, and now standing in this courtroom, demanding justice. Across from him, at the defendant's table, sat Lena Marshall, her posture defiant, her lips pursed as if she were already crafting her defense. Her eyes glinted with a mix of bravado and unease, and the way she tossed her hair suggested she was ready to put on a show. The space between them was a chasm, crackling with years of shared history, moments of love, betrayal, and a family caught in the crossfire. I leaned forward, my pen poised, knowing this wasn't just a case. This was a reckoning. Judge Brooks wasted no time, her voice steady but firm, cutting through the tension like a lighthouse beam through fog. "Mr. Carter, you're back, but today, you're the petitioner. It seems we've finally located Ms. Marshall." Her gaze flicked to Lena, who shifted slightly, her chin lifting in a silent challenge. "What brings you here today?" Marcus cleared his throat, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles paled. "Your Honor, I'm here for justice. It's time I get back what I've been giving out. Money. I've been pouring out money. And he gestured toward Lena, his voice thick with frustration, hasn't been here. Not for the kids. Not for anything." The judge raised an eyebrow, leaning forward just enough to signal her full attention. "Before we dive in, let's clear something up. Are the kids in the car with the dog again today?" There was a faint warmth in her tone, a nod to a past case that had clearly stuck with her. A moment of levity in an otherwise heavy proceeding. Marcus shook his head, a ghost of a smile breaking through his tension. "No, Your Honor. The kids are with a neighbor. The dog, well, he got hit a while back. He's in a doggy wheelchair now." A ripple of sympathy passed through the room, and Judge Brooks's expression softened, but only for a moment. "I'm sorry to hear about the dog, but I'm glad the kids are safe. Let's focus on why we're here. It's been a few months since I last saw you. Mr. Carter, catch me up. What's been going on?" Marcus nodded, his voice steady but laced with a quiet anger that seemed to simmer just beneath the surface. "It's been about 8 months since the kids have been with me full-time. Lena hasn't paid a dime in child support. She hasn't even visited them. But she's had plenty of time to visit that guy she ran off with, the one in jail." The courtroom gasped, a collective intake of breath that seemed to suck the air from the space. Heads turned, whispers erupted, and I scribbled furiously, catching the shock that rippled through the crowd. Lena's head snapped up, her eyes blazing with indignation. "Excuse me?" she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. You don't get to throw that in my face. Marcus. Judge Brooks held up a hand. Her patience already wearing thin. Her gavel hovering like a warning. Ms. Marshall, you'll get your turn. But let me remind you. This is your first time here today. And if I recall, you filed a lawsuit against Mr. Carter before and didn't even bother to show up. So, I suggest you pipe down and wait your turn. Lena's lips tightened, but she leaned back, folding her arms across her chest. Her posture screaming defiance. I chose money, okay? She muttered, just loud enough for the judge to catch. Her words dripping with a mix of pride and resentment. Oh, you chose money? Judge Brooks's tone was laced with skepticism. Her eyes narrowing as she leaned forward. Well, we'll get to that, and we'll see how much money you'll be paying in child support by the end of this. Mr. Carter, continue. Marcus took a deep breath, visibly trying to ignore Lena's glare, which seemed to bore into him like a laser. Like I said, she hasn't been there. Not for the kids. Not for support. I've been covering everything. I got a promotion at work. Manager at the local burger joint. So I've been able to put 2 of the kids on health insurance. My second job helps cover the rest. It's about $350 a month total for their insurance. Judge Brooks nodded, her pen moving swiftly across her notepad. Her focus unwavering. Congratulations on the promotion. So, all the children are insured. And you're covering that cost. Anything else I should know before I hear from Ms. Marshall? Marcus hesitated, his jaw tightening as he glanced at Lena. Then back at the judge. I'm ready to hold her accountable. Your Honor. For everything. The judge's gaze shifted to Lena, who now sat up straighter. Her expression a mix of defiance and bravado. Like a performer stepping onto a stage. Ms. Marshall, Judge Brooks said, her voice cool and measured. Are you here to tell me why you shouldn't pay child support? Or are you just here to, as you put it, be pretty? Lena smirked, tossing her hair with a flourish that seemed rehearsed, as if she were filming a video for her followers. A little bit of both. Judge, but I'm here to set the record straight. I'm not interested in your looks. Ms. Marshall, the judge said sharply, cutting through Lena's bravado like a knife through butter. They have no bearing on my ruling. Stick to the facts. Quickly. Lena's smirk faded, and she leaned forward, her tone earnest but still tinged with defiance, as if she were trying to win over an audience. The fact is, Judge, I had those kids for 10 years before Marcus stepped up. He was barely doing anything, scraping by, missing visits, not paying what he owed. That's why I petitioned the court last time. I was tired of carrying it all. Judge Brooks tilted her head, her expression unyielding, her eyes boring into Lena like a spotlight. You petitioned, yes, and then you didn't show up. I dismissed that case. Care to explain why you thought that was a good idea? Lena shifted uncomfortably, her confidence wavering, her hands fidgeting in her lap. I had an opportunity. Judge, I had to take it. An opportunity? The judge's voice was laced with curiosity, her eyebrows arching slightly. What kind of opportunity are we talking about? Lena's eyes lit up, and she leaned forward, her voice dropping conspiratorially, as if she were sharing a secret with a friend. I met a man, Judge. He said he could change my life. And he did, for a while. I've got 6 figures in the bank now. Marcus let out a loud scoff, unable to contain himself, his frustration boiling over. 6 figures? You're out here lying. Lena. Mr. Carter. Judge Brooks snapped, her gavel hovering like a storm cloud, her voice sharp enough to silence the room. One more outburst, and I'll reset this hearing. Neither of you wants to pay for court parking again. Do you? She turned back to Lena, her eyes piercing. Ms. Marshall, you claim you have 6 figures in the bank. How much are we talking? And how much do you make annually? Lena hesitated, her bravado faltering, her hands twisting together as she struggled to find the right words. It's, 400,000. Depends on the year. I'm self-employed. I'm an influencer. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. And I scribbled furiously, my heart racing as the plot thickened. An influencer? This was getting juicier by the second. Judge Brooks raised an eyebrow, her voice cutting through the noise like a whip. An influencer? You influence the world, you say? Well, you clearly aren't influencing your 5 children, who you haven't seen or supported in months. Lena's face flushed, and she opened her mouth to protest. But the judge cut her off, her patience wearing thin. You said you had the kids for 10 years. But now you're off chasing opportunities and leaving Mr. Carter to handle everything. I asked you a simple question. How much do you make annually? Don't waste my time. Lena fidgeted, her voice quieter now, her earlier confidence crumbling. It's hard to say, Judge. Some years, I might make 30,000. Others, maybe 100,000. Depends on promotions, sponsorships. Judge Brooks sighed, her frustration palpable, her pen tapping against her notepad. You're not answering my question. Ms. Marshall, I have other cases to hear. I'm going to take the high end, 100,000, because I don't have time for games. Are you employed, or is this all self-employed income? Self-employed, Lena said quickly, her voice barely above a whisper, her eyes darting to the floor. All of it. Fine, the judge said, her pen moving again, her focus unrelenting. Let's talk about something else you've been spending money on. Mr. Carter mentioned a procedure, a BBL, was it? The courtroom buzzed again, a wave of whispers sweeping through the crowd. And Lena's eyes widened, her composure cracking like glass. Why's he bringing that up? That's my business. It's relevant, Judge Brooks said coolly, her tone leaving no room for argument, her gaze unwavering. How much did it cost? Lena hesitated, then shrugged, her voice defensive, her hands clenching into fists. I didn't pay for it. My friend did. It was maybe 40,000. Got a little more than a BBL. Though. Marcus snorted, shaking his head, his frustration palpable, and the judge shot him a warning look, her gavel twitching in her hand. Ms. Marshall, you're telling me you've got money for cosmetic procedures but nothing for your 5 children? And you haven't seen them because you're too busy influencing. It's not like that, Lena protested, her voice rising, a note of desperation creeping in. Things have been tough lately. Inflation, you know, people aren't paying as much. Judge Brooks leaned back, her expression unreadable, but I could sense the storm building in her silence. A quiet fury that seemed to fill the room. Let's get to the numbers. You have 5 children, Ms. Marshall, based on your testimony of earning 100,000 annually. Your gross monthly income is approximately 8.333. After taxes, your net is about 6.527. For 5 children, child support is calculated at 40%, which comes to 2.610 per month. Add in $350 for health insurance reimbursement, and you're looking at $2.960 per month in child support. Lena's jaw dropped, her composure crumbling entirely, her hands trembling as she gripped the edge of the table. 2.960 a month? Judge, I can't. You can. And you will, Judge Brooks said firmly, her voice like steel, her eyes locked on Lena's. The children will remain with Mr. Carter. As they have been. As for visitation, you'll work that out with him. But let me be clear. You don't get to run off. Chase your dreams. And leave your responsibilities behind. These children deserve better. Lena's eyes glistened, but she held her head high, her voice trembling as she fought to maintain her dignity. Can I at least see them on weekdays? Weekends are my busiest time. Judge Brooks stared at her, incredulous, her eyebrows shooting up. Weekdays? When they're in school, and you don't have a car. According to Mr. Carter, how do you plan to get them to school? I'll figure it out, Lena said, her voice barely holding together, her hands shaking as she clutched her purse. Marcus shook his head, his voice low but audible, his frustration spilling over. She's lying, Judge, she's always lying. Enough, Judge Brooks said, her gavel coming down with a sharp crack that echoed through the room, silencing the whispers and the tension. Ms. Marshall, you'll pay $2.960 per month in child support. Effective immediately. You and Mr. Carter will arrange visitation through mediation. I don't want to see either of you back here unless absolutely necessary. You're dismissed. The courtroom began to empty. But I stayed in my seat for a moment, watching as Marcus stood, his shoulders squared, a weight lifted but not entirely gone. His face was a mix of relief and resolve, as if he'd won a battle but knew the war was far from over. Lena lingered at her table, her expression a mix of defiance and defeat. her hands trembling slightly as she gathered her things. The spectators filed out, their whispers growing louder, already spinning tales of the drama they'd witnessed, their voices a chorus of judgment and speculation. I jotted down my final notes, my mind racing with the implications of what I'd just seen, my heart heavy with the weight of the story unfolding before me. As I walked out of the courthouse, the gray sky above seemed to mirror the unresolved tension of the case. The air heavy with the promise of rain. This wasn't just about child support or legal rulings. It was about two people whose choices had shaped the lives of 5 children. Caught in the middle of their parents' battles, Marcus had stepped up, taking on the role of both mother and father, working 2 jobs to keep his kids insured and cared for, his life a testament to sacrifice and resilience. But Lena was a puzzle. A woman who'd walked away from her children, chasing a dream of wealth and influence, only to find herself cornered by the very responsibilities she'd tried to escape. Her claim of 6 figures in the bank, her lavish spending on cosmetic procedures, and her absence from her children's lives painted a picture of selfishness. But there was something in her eyes, a flicker of regret, that made me wonder if there was more to her story. A piece of the puzzle I couldn't yet see. This case left me grappling with questions that don't have easy answers. Questions that lingered long after I left the courthouse. Was Lena truly as callous as she seemed? Or was she a woman who'd made desperate choices in pursuit of a better life, only to lose sight of what mattered most? Had she been driven by ambition? Or was she running from a past that weighed her down? And Marcus? How long could he carry the burden of raising 5 children alone? Even with the court's support? The ruling was fair, no doubt. $2.960 a month would help ease the financial strain. Give those kids a chance at stability. But money can't mend broken bonds or heal the wounds of absence. Those kids, wherever they were that day, deserved parents who put them first. But life isn't always that simple. And the truth is rarely black and white. What struck me most was the raw humanity of it all, the anger, the pain, the defiance, the hope. Marcus's quiet strength, his unwavering commitment to his children, was a beacon in the storm, a reminder of what it means to show up when it matters most. Lena's bold but fragile facade, her refusal to back down even as her world crumbled, was both infuriating and oddly compelling, a glimpse into a woman caught between her dreams and her duties. And Judge Brooks, with her unflinching commitment to justice, her ability to cut through the noise and focus on the children, was the steady hand guiding this ship through turbulent waters. Together, they wove a story that was as heartbreaking as it was infuriating. A story that stuck with me long after the gavel fell. But this story isn't just about Marcus and Lena, or even the 5 children caught in the middle. It's about the choices we all make, the priorities we set, and the consequences that ripple out from them. Lena's decision to chase fame and fortune at the expense of her family sparked outrage in that courtroom. But it also sparked debate, a clash of perspectives that I could feel in the whispers of the crowd. Some saw her as a villain, a mother who'd abandoned her children for fleeting glory. Others wondered if she was a product of a world that pushes people to chase shiny dreams at the expense of what's real. Was she a cautionary tale? Or was there a case to be made for her side, for the pressures and temptations that led her astray? And Marcus, his resilience was inspiring. But it also raised questions about a system that leaves one parent to bear the weight alone. About the toll of sacrifice and the limits of endurance. As I reflect on that day, I'm left with a mix of emotions: admiration for Marcus's strength, frustration with Lena's choices, and a deep respect for Judge Brooks's clarity in a messy, complicated world. But I'm also left with questions. Questions that don't have easy answers and that demand a conversation. What do you think of this story? Was the court's decision enough to set things right? Or is there more that needs to be done for those 5 kids? For families caught in similar storms? Should Lena's pursuit of her own dreams be judged so harshly? Or is there a case to be made for her side, for the pressures that shaped her path? And what about Marcus? How do we support parents like him, who step up when others step away? I'd love to hear your thoughts, your perspectives, your own experiences. Share them with me, because stories like this don't end in the courtroom. They live on in the conversations we have, in the lessons we take away, in the ways we choose to show up for each other. Let's talk about it. Because this is a story that demands to be heard. A story that challenges us to look at ourselves and ask, what would we do